Because I consider myself a decent enough runner, I decided to try out for my cross-country team when I first joined middle school in 6th grade. And when I first started, I wasn't the greatest. I was really average at best, but I kept on working hard and working hard. During practice, I would push myself as far as I could, and running became easier and easier. Soon, I could go at much longer distances at faster paces, and I placed better and better at each of my cross-country meets. This taught me something, that the harder you work when you practice, the easier it'll be when you play. I learned a very valuable lesson that I still keep with myself today. Now that I know I should always try my best to work hard, and I'll see growth and success. This leads us to today's quote, which is, "He who sweats more in training bleeds less in war." I take this to mean that life will be easier for us if we work harder while we practice, and we'll end up seeing growth and benefit if we do. This can be proven through 3 examples. First, through the story of the famous basketball player Michael Jordan. Second, through the character Katniss Everdeen from the book The Hunger Games. And finally, from what the Soviet Union learned from the Winter War. Moving on to our first point, we'll take a look at Michael Jordan, the famous basketball player. We all know Michael Jordan as one of the best basketball players of all time, but not all of us might know that he was actually kicked off of his high school basketball team. Despite this, Michael Jordan kept on trying hard, and he saw that he drastically improved. And he, as you know, he ended up making it to the NBA and becoming arguably one of the greatest players of all time. This shows that even if we fail when we first start, like Michael Jordan did in high school when he was kicked off of his team, he kept on working hard, and he ended up seeing tremendous growth and becoming one of the best basketball players of all time. Moving on to our second point, we'll take a look at the story of the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games is set in a post-apocalyptic futuristic America, in which America is divided into 12 districts, and each of these 12 district is brutally ruled by their oppressive government known as the capital. Each year, a boy and a girl is sent from each district to go fight to death in the Hunger Games. The people in the district are terrified of their children being picked and having to go fight to death in the Hunger Games, and only one victor who survives the deadly Hunger Games is allowed to survive and go home. Katniss Everdeen is a resident in District 12, one of the poorest districts. Katniss Everdeen is very poor, and she has to hunt for her family to survive. And while this might seem illegal and dangerous at first, she ended up learning very valuable skills from it. Like first, how to shoot a bow and arrow, which ended up proving pivotal in the Hunger Games, but also many survival skills that people tend to overlook, like how to start a fire, knowing what plants are edible and which are poisonous. These ended up proving pivotal in her eventual victory in the Hunger Games, as herself, along with her district partner, ended up becoming a victor of the Hunger Games and made a lot of money for their family in doing so. This shows that while Katniss Everdeen was born poor at first, she ended up learning very valuable skills in this tough time that ended up benefiting her life a lot in the long run, showing that sometimes life will be a lot easier if we work hard at first, and if we work hard and prepare at first, and we'll end up seeing victory and success later on in our life, just like Katniss Everdeen did. Moving on to our final point, we'll take a look at the Soviet Union and what they learned during the Winter War. During World War II, Russia was involved in a war with Germany, and they needed as many possible routes to Germany as they possibly could. And one of these routes was off to the northwest of Russia. This route was through Finland, and Russia needed access into Finland in order to help them fight their war with Germany. However, the Finnish didn't suddenly give up their land. They fought as hard as they possibly could. This would seemingly be an easy win for the Soviet Union, as at the time it was one of the most powerful countries at all time, countries in the world, and they presumed that they would have easy success against the weak Finnish. However, they didn't. Finland, despite being a small country, ended up embarrassingly defeating the Russians in the war. However, the Russians learned a lot of valuable skills in this war. Despite their embarrassing defeat, they had to fight the Finnish in cold and the snow, and they learned very valuable lessons from this. One of them was to not underestimate the force of the winter. Finland is a very cold Nordic country, and the Russians had to fight them in cold weather, and they often lost food and often froze to death. But later down the line, when they were fighting Germany in a cold Russian winter, they learned what they learned from fighting the Finnish, that they shouldn't underestimate how powerful a winter could be. So they oversupplied their troops with warm clothes and better food, and that ended up being pivotal, as Germany did not look ahead that much, and their troops were often underfunded and often froze to death. In fact, one time it got so cold that bullets would literally freeze in midair. And as we all know, Russia eventually ended up defeating Germany and was victorious in World War II, showing that if we try to learn from tough times and push through them, and push through our training, we will end up doing a lot better in the future, just like Russia did. Even though they suffered an embarrassing defeat, they ended up becoming very victorious in the long run. Moving on to our final. In conclusion, I've shown that the quote, "He who sweats more in training bleeds less in war," means that life will be much easier for us if we work hard and prepare, proven through 3 points. First, through Michael Jordan. Second, through Katniss from the Hunger Games, and finally, from the lessons Russia learned from fighting Finland in the Winter War. And even me, when I first signed up for cross country, and ended up learning a lot from it.